the web, any size. Catch his thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of Amazing Spider-Man Classics in association with SpidermanCrawlspace.com. My name is John Wilson, and this is a podcast that takes you through every major comic, every guest appearance, and every cameo we can find of the Amazing Spider-Man. And, well, this is it, folks. Episode 40, the final episode recorded that included the original panel of hosts for this show. That is going to be consisting of myself, of course, Josh Bertoni, and Donovan Grant. We're also joined once again for one final time by our good friend and guest on many episodes of the show, Stephen Lacey, as we round out the Kingpin trilogy with Amazing Spider-Man 52. Stick around at the end for also some brief coverage of the X-Men 35, and then some discussion of where the show is going from here, in case you have forgotten. Amazing Spider-Man 52 was released on or around June 8th, 1967, with a cover date of September. And to take us through all the glorious details, glorious details, is Josh Bertoni.
One issue, glory. Okay, yeah. Issue 52, and this is back when the number 52 was just a number 52, back before it was like one of the most important numbers in comics. Like,
oh god,
it's like big symbolic thing. So
no, I told you, Josh, that we needed to get the new 52 Amazing Spider-Man, not the old one.
Oh, well, I like this one better.
Oh, okay.
So on the cover, we have Spider-Man with his head down in shame or unconscious, on top of some metal thing, handcuffed, with Jonah on his back. Jonah is not unconscious, and his head's up, and he's looking a little more distressed, and a little bucktooth too, I might add. And that might be because this chamber that they're in has some pipes, filling it up with water, and wouldn't you know it, Jonah can't breathe underwater, and neither can Spidey, so one of them might. To die a hero, as the cover says.
One of them might too.
Yeah, that's right. So we open up with the big splash page that says, to die a hero. Spidey has been defeated by the deceptively powerful Kingpin while trying to save a bewildered J. Jonah Jameson. And now the fantastic finale, produced and presented by Stan the Man Lee and John Ring-a-Ding Romita, embellished by Mickey DeMeo and lettered by Sam Rosen. The Kingpin decides that shooting his captured Jonah and Spider-Man in the head would be too sensible, victorious,
too easy.
I don't know, but either way, he goes the whole James Bond villain route and tosses them in a Batman 1966-esque death trap. Jonah and the unconscious Spider-Man are tied up together in a cellar which is rapidly filling up with water. As you can imagine, Jonah does not shut up for 1 minute of it with the whole, oh, you can't do this, I'm J. Jonah Jameson, let me go.
Okay, I had to interrupt you because Batman was in its first season at this point, which means that whole idea of the superhero constantly being tossed in a silly death trap for cliffhangers would have been very, very much in the public consciousness at this point. I wish they kind of had done that at the end of last issue. Like, set him up in the pouring water at the end of 51 and ended it with, what's this? Spider-Man underwater? Or something like that, silly. It would have been cool. That's the way I would have done it if I had been God.
That is actually interesting.
Haven't they already done Spidey trapped, endangered, imperiled by water rushing in?
No, they have never done that.
Yeah, but it worked so well the first time.
I know. We should always reuse our tropes.
Well, I think now that you mentioned that Batman was just starting the television show, I think that they have a James Bond mindset rather than a Batman mindset.
Well, the Kingpin decides that, it's these are the type of things that you don't want to, watch. You don't want to make sure that these things worked out according to plan. So he shuts the door and walks away. Jonah hopes that Spider-Man will wake up and talks about Spider-Man's progress to no one in particular, except for himself. Like, Spider, for the love of what? He's waking up! He's beginning to stir! The gas must be finally wearing off! Who are you talking to?
It's Foswell's invisible roommate.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah. Or Mystique. Ugh. Spider-Man still looking down. Iron bands around my wrist while they're setting in higher by the second. That means the Kingpin is trying to finish us.
I know that whenever I'm recovering from being punched in the head, the first thing I do is start talking.
And then Jonah says, we don't need a blasted Huntley-Brinkley report.
Who are you to talk?
Yeah, 2 panels earlier, you're like, oh, he's waking up. He's lifting his head. Now he's looking this way.
Do y'all know who Huntley and Brinkley are?
Yeah, Chet Huntley is like a famous 50s reporter.
Yeah, Huntley and Brinkley Report was the primetime news program of NBC at this time. Just throwing that out there.
Now you know.
And now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
So Spider-Man busts out of the bands because, hey, he has spider strength, and Jonah still yells, that's right, even if you do get us free, then what? Even you can't breathe for long underwater. If you'll clam up a few minutes, maybe neither of us will have to. Don't try to kid me, Webhead. We're done for, and you know it. Of all the people to spend my last minutes on Earth with, it had to be, hey, I did it. My hands are free now. Big deal. What are you going to do? Breathe through your fingers? Jameson, did anyone ever tell you you're an itch? And this is the edited version. In the Marvel Max series, he actually says bitch.
Yeah, sure he does.
Nice.
Stanley wrote that in.
So Spider-Man starts shooting his webs in the air, leaving Jonah very, very confused, and of course, very, very talkative. Cut to the Daily Bugle, where we get, one of our most important introductions ever.
Oh yes.
Meanwhile, at the offices of the Daily Bugle, Ned, what happened? Why is the door broken? Where's Mr. Jameson? I don't know, honey. I just got here, but something is mighty wrong. Ned picks up the phone with sheer determination on his face. First, Oswald is missing.
Must grab receiver, raise to air, vocalize through mouthpiece.
No, Ned, I can't let you pick up the phone. It's too dangerous. Let me
Wait, is that Betty or was that Aunt May? Peter, you can't pick up the phone
They're the
without
same
a
person.
jumper on.
Ned, no! Whatever the danger is, we'll face it together. She doesn't actually say that, except she does. At different points of the series. I'll call Robertson. He's sitting there. Maybe he can fill us in. Don't bother, Leeds. I'm right here. I've been here all along. Hello? Is it me you're looking for? And we get flashbacks to all the times that Robbie's been there for Leeds throughout his life. As Ned Leeds took his first steps, as Ned Leeds,
Riding his bike that first time. I can do it, Robbie. I'm riding. I'm very proud of you, Leeds.
I just can't do it, Bobby.
You know my rod and luck. It was you, Robbie. It was you all along, guiding me, inspiring me. Yes. And now you know what you must do? Yes, I must.
Correct.
Robbie behind Ned. It's which is weird. Robbie appears in a panel as if from thin air. I'm right here. I'm right here, and it's Greek to me. I just sent for the police. There must be something wrong. Jameson would never take off without telling us. I figure he's been abducted, and we gotta find out why. I'll hold down the desk while you see what you can recover. Let's go, boy. There's no time to waste. I'm on my way, Robbie. I'll keep in touch with you. Ned, wait! You're not a crime reporter. That's Foswell's job. What if it's something dangerous? I couldn't bear if something happened. Don't say it, Betty. I have a job to do, and I've got to do it the best I can. And then there's pages of ads. Now stop worrying, honey. The next issue blurb said that someone will die, and it's not going to be me, because I'm telling you not to worry, and I'm telling you I'm going to get a Pulitzer Prize, and we're going to hang it up after we get married. So there's absolutely nothing to worry about. This is not setting up for my eventual death.
Now where's my hat?
Which, did I talk about this? Yeah, we talked about this on the air for the last episode, but yeah, it's a very, very, big fiction trope that, somebody's I'm going to get a prize for this, and then we're going to get married. You'll see, it'll all be great. So with that in the next issue blurb,
he runs out the door and, he's gunned down.
Yeah. He runs out the door, and the foreigner's men, kill him. He's like, no, wait! This isn't supposed to happen for another 200 and something issues. Sorry, Leeds. No! And he's like, what about Betty? Will she be safe? Oh, she's already making out with Flash Thompson. She's done.
It actually has been for a while. You just didn't know.
In the background with Robbie.
And then Betty, looks dramatically at Ned, wondering if she's always going to be haunted by the threat of danger. Meanwhile, Jameson's continuing to yell, panic, and complain as Spider-Man frantically uses his webs to create an air bubble around Jonah and him. Makes sense. Too bad the plan will never work because obviously Fisk is using one of his secret mirrors to watch the whole thing go down, just like last issue with Foswell. Oh.
Except he's not.
He's not? Real? That might have been helpful. Okay, well, that means that Fisk's men outside the door don't realize. Oh, dear. Well, Fisk's men, which he's not called Fisk in the story, but for simplicity's sake, I'm calling him Fisk. Fisk's men are ordered
he won't be called Fisk until Daredevil.
Yeah.
And Militech says he will always be Kingpin.
Even at one point, they call his wife Mrs. K in like Amazing Spider-Man issues, which is like as in Mrs. Kingpin.
Yeah, her name's Vanessa, but we don't know her last name until Daredevil.
That's like, let's say that your nickname was, I don't know, Scooter, and your wife was known as Mrs. S. Even though your surname's Bertoni or Grant, it's just like, what? Why?
Well, I don't know. Didn't you call Eddie's wife Mrs. Eddie?
Yeah, I did.
Hi, Eddie.
Now, Brad's wife is known as Mrs. Crawlspace on the show, so
I guess it works.
In the context of it, it's really weird, but yeah. So the men are ordered to come in and dispose of the bodies. What? Why didn't you just dispose of the bodies before? Okay, whatever. Yeah, this is why you're always losing power and regaining it because of boneheaded decisions like this.
The reason why he's doing it, he's saying, "Oh, they'll be goners by now," but let's just wait another 30 seconds to be sure. Like no one's ever held their breath for 30 seconds. He just said, "Yeah, let's come back in a day. Let's come back in a day and just really be sure." They'd have been dead. That bubble doesn't hold enough air. But no, just 30 seconds. That's all we need. Moron.
They're all morons. So Spider-Man busts out of this web cocoon. Oh yeah! And fights through the wave of the Kingpin's men while Jonah is still just sitting there complaining. So Spider-Man decides, all right, I got to get him out of here. And it doesn't really work out too well because Jonah, just like kind of stands there. So Spider-Man finally decides to send away by saying, don't worry, this is your chance to get back to the Bugle and tell everyone what a big, brave hero you are. And then Jonah doesn't listen, and he says, I've got to shock him into escaping. Jameson, I said move, or you'll be my next target. So that spooks Jonah because it's the whole thing that like all the Marvel heroes do to break up their girlfriends. I gotta be a douche. It's the only way to save their life is to act like a douche.
I mean, in fairness, Jonah was in shock. He was like scared and wasn't moving.
I knew it. You're mad, uncontrollable. You'll attack anyone just to prove your power. You're even more of a menace than I said you were. Well, I had to do this the hard way, but at least I got him to run. And run Jonah does right into. Pretty much like this is like someone will do a caption of this on like 4chan or something. It'll say like fail or run, or
you know what this is? Have you seen? I want to say Star Trek 5.
It's my favorite of the Star Trek films, which I've never seen.
Okay.
No.
Scotty's sent off to go and do something in the ship to help regain control, and he goes, "Don't worry, I know this ship like the back of my hand." At which point he walks into a pipe and knocks himself unconscious.
And he's like unconscious for half the movie.
Yeah.
Are you freaking serious?
He was a big guy by then. He couldn't.
That was what Star Trek. That was what William Shatner considered to be humor whenever he wrote Star Trek 5.
William Shatner.
I thought he just directed it.
It's his movie. Everything gets blamed on William Shatner. I don't care who wrote it.
That reminds me of the Futurama gag where like Spock is like saying, when I wrote Star Trek, insert number here, I had respect for my actors. And then Shatner's like, yeah, when I wrote Star Trek 5, I had respect for me.
Wasn't that was the Futurama one?
That was Futurama.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jonah runs into a pipe, which I mean, I guess like this puts Jonah in the running of like people who may die this issue. However, unbeknownst to the battling web-slinger, Jolly Jonah's escape is suddenly cut short. Thung! As he races into and there's a smudge here, into a low-hanging pipe in the gloomy sub-cellar. So, yay for Jonah. Walk much. Meanwhile, Foswell and Fisk seem to be disagreeing on the definition of killing. Because Foswell seems to think that you can be a master criminal without having to ever kill in cold blood, even though that's kind of what he was trying to do in issue 10 of Amazing Spider-Man, but whatever. While Kingpin thinks that, no, this wasn't cold-blooded murder, I just eliminated them. I didn't kill it's like a pointless conversation about like the definition of killing. Like 2 issues ago, this guy's like, I'm gonna take over the mobs. Now he's like, what? I never wanted to kill anyone. Like,
murder? You dare accuse the Kingpin of anything as crass as that, even though that's exactly what I just did?
Yeah, no, he takes offense at it, but it's like, okay, what is the difference between what you did and what you're insulted that I'm insinuating you did?
I think he's going to murder Foswell for saying that he's a murderer.
In issue 10, when like Peter says, I know who the big man is, he's like, let's take Parker for a ride. And like the enforcers kidnap him. Like, what was going to happen then? Like, elimination, murder, cold, like, it's a stupid conversation. So he decides that it's time to murder or not murder, whatever it is, Foswell. But Spider-Man comes in still alive, which shocks the Kingpin because the Kingpin took every single procedure to make sure that Spider-Man would not survive that thing.
He underestimated him by not checking.
But we cut to the Silver Spoon, where Flash has returned from Vietnam. You know, the place he went to 5 minutes ago.
Or didn't.
Yeah, the place where he may or may not have went, like, 5 minutes ago, and everyone...
look at him. Look at him, he's walking.
Yeah,
Isn't it great?
Yeah. Yeah, so Venom's hanging out at the Silver Spoon with the Green Goblin. When
I have to say, I really dig Gwen's sweater here. That's pretty awesome.
I'd like to dig in the Gwen sweater. So let's see. Yeah, Venom and the Green Goblin are there. When the Scarlet Spider walks in, we'll see. She might.
I'll make a point of this a little later, but this scene is really insulting.
Really?
Yeah, no, I'll talk about it after the recap.
Now I'm intrigued. We have suspense now waiting for...
There's not much to tell, kiddos. You must have heard how the Viet Cong wanted to sue for peace as soon as they found out I was there. Old Lyndon Johnson asked me what to do, but I decided he ought to work it out for himself. You let him do it the hard way, eh, soldier?
Like I say, it's very insulting.
Did it take the army long to teach you humility, Flash? Flash! Is that really fearless Flash? Mary Jane says when she walks in. Good heavens, I thought Rod Hudson had bleached his hair. Mary Jane, you heard I was here, so you ditched Parker. Good thinking, pretty girl.
Nice.
Oh, the voices.
Ditch him? I haven't seen him for ages. Say, army life must agree with you. Don't aim those eyes at me that way. They might be loaded. Oh, you probably say those same things to all the handsome, glamorous war heroes you meet.
Flash turns into Harry for a second.
Like the wolf, yeah, I can't. All these voices in the same room, I can't keep them straight. And then Gwen decides, it's time to throw a party, because we'll get to that. Let's face it, group. This calls for a king-size party, like the one that I had, 3 issues ago. Like, when Flash left 5 minutes ago, we threw a party.
In between my science.
And then 5 issues before that.
Yeah. As soon as Pete gets here, we'll arrange the zingiest wing dinging in town. Parker, you gotta be kidding me. He can empty a room just by entering it. Come on, Flash. A good egg and you know it. Aha, Gwen brainwashed you too.
And there are laughs everywhere, and everyone's laughing and smiling.
And then Bulk and Skull walk in. Hey, dweebs! We told you, Bulk, we don't want any more of your trouble. Oh, yeah? Whoa. Oh, no, the cake for Flash's party has flown in the air. Oh!
We need Ring-a-Ding Ramita to have the wingiest zing-ding in town.
At Jazzy Gianni's.
Yeah, so Flash, basically Flash, being away for 5 minutes is a big deal. It is enough for Gwen to throw a party. But let's go back to the party at the Kingpin's place. Spider-Man and Kingpin are battling. Foswell grabs a hidden gun and bolts out of there. Kingpin flees after Spider-Man is stunned, and Spidey concludes that this must be because he realizes that Jonah has escaped too, and Jonah might call the cops. And he's like, oh, yeah, I probably should have checked to make sure that Jonah got out of here and didn't, hit his head on a pipe and go unconscious. And speaking of Jonah and that unconscious pipe, Jonah wakes up because there's a leak from the pipe on his head. Oh, my head. Oh, where am I? What happened? Who's pounding on me with a sledgehammer? I remember now. The Kingpin. He tried to kill me. And then Spider-Man threatened me. Even Oswald turned against me. I love the paranoia in this. What's this on my head? It's wet. It must be blood. I'm wounded. I'm dying. Help! Someone help!
Because like the water from the pipes are on his head.
Yeah.
So, well, I have to ask, when did Jonah become such a pussy?
Have you seen Spider-Man issue 1?
That's just a good question. He's really cowardly. I think has he been in this much danger before?
Well, the Vulture attacked him in
Issue 7.
issue 7 and in Amazing Spider-Man Annual 1.
And the
Have
Scorpion.
we had the Scorpion going for him yet?
Scorpion has not returned yet, has he?
But the Scorpion's
Yes,
attacked him
that's-
twice already, though.
Yeah, because that was the issue where like Betty Brant had a nervous breakdown.
Oh, that's right. That was 29. Okay.
Specific.
So yeah, he's definitely shown some cowardice before, but not quite so blatantly as this.
Jonah's running, and then these thugs see him, and it's like, yeah, we should probably plug this guy. Jonah runs into Foswell, who tells him that since Jonah's the only one who ever believed in him, he'll protect him.
And then he dies. the
So,
next
yeah.
second he gets killed.
He'll protect him till the day he dies, which, is a panel later where, like, Foswell gets shot, and Jonah decides that, like, people around him don't know what's going on, so he needs to explain this to no one in particular. You took that shot that was intended for me. I don't understand. I don't get any of this. What do you mean you don't get it? You just described exactly what happened.
He's speaking for the invisible reader who just decided to pick up a Spider-Man comic and flip to this page.
Yeah, I get.
That's all I got.
Spider-Man shows up to help Jonah and Foswell against the gangsters, but he's too late. He catches the gangsters, but Foswell dies. And-
Aww.
Aww.
Aww, so that's the death of this
Can
issue.
we have a moment's silence for... That's not silence.
Too late for Doctor. Better this way. I failed at everything except for walking in the pipes. You take the cake on that one. Am I right, Jonah? Foswell, you're fired. Joke's on you. I'm dead. Foswell, he's dead. Who can predict what any man will do? Foswell sacrificed himself to save another. Jameson had gambled right for once. He gave an ex-con a job, a second chance. And when the chips were down, Foswell betrayed him. Foswell repaid the only way he could with his life. I don't know how or why he got involved with the Kingpin. But there's only one thing to know. When Fred Foswell breathed his last, he died a hero. Huh? Get it, Spidey? The title of this issue? Huh?
Oh, God. I never even realized that.
Huh? Yeah.
He didn't really die, though. He actually just transferred universes and woke up as Sam Foswell in the DCU and went to go work at the Daily Bugle, where he became managing editor. Took over for Perry White while Perry White had to go on vacation, deal with his marriage issues. Fired Jimmy Olsen, and then got fired himself when Perry White came back. And then he got involved with Blaze and became a demon, like a Fosgoyle kind of thing, down in the Blaze Satanis War. So yeah, Sam Foswell.
I prefer that he regenerated into the Ultimate Universe where he's like, at last, a universe where I'm not alive. All right, Foswell, you're on. Oh, crap.
Sorry, did you just say at last the universe where I'm not alive?
Where I'm not dead, excuse me.
Look, he's
Dead in this.
Okay, so Ned Leeds shows up at the scene, very, very late, but whatever. And Spider-Man already silently pegs him as Foswell's replacement. Noting, he'll replace Foswell as the crime reporter because he'll never make the mistakes that Foswell did, like teaming up with a Fisk or get his throat slit in Germany. Yeah, everything's gonna be okay. And with that, the issue ends.
Well, it was Spider-Man, oh, well, all's well that ends well. There's probably a moral, but I'm too tired to think about what happened to me. I'm just going to go sleep.
There's probably a moral. One of my coworkers who I've known since I was a teenager is dead. Huh. The Kingpin got away, Ned Leeds has a promotion, but yeah, all's well that ends well.
But alas, there's not much slumber in Spidey's future, and you'll know the reason why as soon as we tell you that our next bombshell issue features the incredible villainy of a villain you've never heard of before. Brand new. No, Dr. Octopus.
Of course, we'll do anything we say. Of course you will. You are completely at the mercy of Dr. Octopus.
I know, wrong musical cue, but
Well, thank you for that recap, Joshua. Why do I call you Joshua?
I don't know.
He's yours, mother.
I'll just call you Lappin from now on.
Nobody does. Like, Lappin is completely, like, I don't mind, but, like, Lappin's, like, completely disappeared from my... during the, like, press release for, like, me being on the new podcast, it's, like, Josh Bertoni. It's always Josh Bertoni, and when I go... It's really funny.
How do you
Mary
sign-
Jane Parker.
How do you sign your checks? Lappin Bertoni or just Bertoni?
You would know because you have a check from me.
I didn't look. I mean,
Yes,
I did spend 10 hours learning to forge your signature, but I forget exactly how it goes.
I sign everything Lappin Bertoni or LB, but it's yeah, I'm basically my the Lappin part of my last name is usually retconned out for the purpose of being brief.
New 52, Josh Bertoni, now with full hyphenated name.
I'm dropping this
Wow.
book. They retconned out Lappin. How could they do that? It has such a long history.
I know, right? That's another book I'm not picking up. Okay, so To Die a Hero. We start off with the James Bond Death Trap. And they're carrying Spider-Man, which I think is kind of funny. And they're talking about how I thought a guy as strong as Spider-Man would have been a heck of a lot heavier. Maybe he's drinking No-Cal. What's the difference? And No-Cal, get ready for this,
Oh God.
was the first zero-calorie soda. It launched in 1952, and it had special flavors like chocolate and blackberry, back whenever randomly asked flavored sodas were popular.
Chocolate soda. Ugh.
It's been popular, but I don't care much for it. I've tried it. But the drink was already dwindling in popularity by this point because Coca-Cola and PepsiCo had both introduced their own diet drinks, which were flooding the market.
No one's ever heard of Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi, though.
You know what also is weird about it? They have an unconscious Spider-Man, and they don't remove his mask.
You're right.
That's because Sam Raimi's not directing this scene.
But I do dig how, like, even on the top of page 2, when they still have the shadowy figures in the background carrying Spider-Man. Like, instead of just, making it a blank purple background, there is that extra detail in there that makes me happy.
Yeah, it's the Thing's skin.
What'd y'all think of the Death Trap?
Why?
Yeah. Bullets to the head. Easier, surely.
Like, it's not like they were like, if it makes it look like they drowned, the heat's off of us. Like, that's not what they were trying to do. Or like
We'll be completely free from suspicion. Us, the people that no one know about.
There was no point.
Having said bullets to the head, this does remind me of another time that Spider-Man and Jonah Jameson are tied up together in a room, and Jameson actually gets a bullet to the head.
There's another time when
yeah.
they're tied up together that Jason goes to pull off his mask.
Yeah, he
Oh,
never
no,
does, though.
Peter's already unmasked at that point, and Jameson knows that he's Spider-Man.
How does Jameson survive that?
The bullet passed 3 centimeters if it gone 3 centimeters to the left, he would have been completely and utterly dead. But it managed to avoid his brain.
What story are we talking about?
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, the comedian.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Where
yeah.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was trying to reach... Because really, when they shoot Jameson in the head, there is no doubt that they have just shot Jameson in the head.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were talking about it on Facebook like the night after. It's like, I can't believe they had the balls to shoot Jameson in the head and have him totally dead. And it's like, oh, he's back.
Yeah.
So they didn't have the balls.
No,
No, but that was I mean, you sort of finished that issue and put it down with like, wow.
It was really, really powerful until it didn't happen.
Yeah. But then there was a really
Like
good
all
issue
stories
where
are.
it's just the two of them talking afterwards, where Jameson does things like set up college funds for him, which I guess worked out financially quite well for him. What with Parker dying 2 weeks later. Now I don't have to fund his tuition. Brilliant.
It's a good thing, though, that whenever they were handcuffing Spider-Man and Jonah Jameson here, they the cuffs are connected to the seat. Because if they had been like handcuffed and chained together, Spider-Man wouldn't have been able to get out.
Like, what is that thing? It's like it's built into the ground, but it's handcuffs. It's like, I thought it might be a drain or something, but there's handcuffs on it.
It was built
It
for this
reminds me
special
of
purpose.
Batman Venom, where Batman was in pretty much the same death trap. And you just gotta wonder what the point of that room is for.
But it's also kind of handy that they put Spider-Man in the pose that he's in, so his legs are underneath him, so he can get the power to snap the handcuffs to use his legs to provide extra force.
Make
He
sure
was
to
being
put him down there. Make sure to give him leverage.
Yeah.
No one can
If
survive
they
that.
sat him like Jonah, then he'd have just been like, I can't get out of it, can't get out of it.
And if he'd been handcuffed to Jonah, any attempts to pull on the manacles would have just pulled on Jonah's arms.
Yeah.
He would have had
That's
to
where the buzzer comes in. They could have just slipped out of it.
Exactly.
We have a first appearance. We're first confirmed named appearance on page 4, at least.
Official introduction to Robertson as the city editor. We saw him in one panel last issue. We talked about that briefly last episode. But here he is, walking in out of nowhere, like he's always been there. I'll call Robertson. He's city editor. Maybe he can fill us in. Don't bother, Leeds. I'm right here, and it's Greek to me. I just sent for the police.
I've been here all along.
I love that.
So...
There's only one man to deal with this. Joseph Robbie Robertson. I couldn't agree with you more because I've been here the whole time.
What are we going to say with this? Has he been here the whole time? Did he just get promoted?
I thought he was new, and I think it's been established that he's new, like, in later source books and biographies. Like, I know I found one that said that, like, he started working at the Daily Bugle then, and I just don't remember it, so it means nothing to the argument now. And just, we see him meeting people who, if he's been working at the Bugle for a long time, he logically should have known. Like, we see him meeting Peter Parker. We see him meeting John Jameson twice. We see one of those, dumb things.
Now, it's possible that he was a bullpenner or somebody just working in one of the 1,000 of people who make the Daily Bugle happen every day before he got promoted to city editor. So he might have been in the Bugle for a while before this and just never had a chance to meet Peter, who comes in to sell his photographs and goes out again. But Ned Leeds definitely knows him here, either because he met him as city editor like yesterday, or because he's just known him around the bullpen or something.
Well, even like that line, like it's for exposition purposes. But if this guy's been working there as this for a while, he wouldn't say, "I'll call Robertson. He's city editor."
No, it makes sense. First Foswell missing, and now the boss. I'll call Robertson. He's the next person to the boss. Maybe he can fill us in.
I see what you're saying, John, but at the same time, he's telling Betty who works there. Unless Betty was preoccupied with something else.
But these have been the 3 episodes of Super Exposition.
Yeah,
the ongoing saga of Super Exposition.
Yes, I know. You thought this was the Kingpin saga? No, it's the dialogue balloon saga.
My Marvel Encyclopedia is in the next room. Not my encyclopedia, my Spider-Man Encyclopedia, which has a lot of errors in it anyway. It's the same encyclopedia that said that Ned Leeds became city editor, which is a total lie.
We need to check out Punisher Year 1 and see what happens there.
Right. Well, it might have been retconned at different points that Robbie's known Jonah longer, been at the Bugle longer, but yeah.
I mean, is Robbie from New York or is he from somewhere else?
Straight Arrow.
Yeah, that's what I remember in the cartoon that I think they said he moved to New York or whatever. I think I don't recall, but
he's from Liverpool.
Yeah, he is.
I'm pretty sure that he's
he was born in Harlem, New York.
For real.
Mm-hmm.
Tombstone was in Harlem, I remember.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that he's new at the Bugle and that I've read it somewhere. I just can't tell you where I've read it right now. And that impression was backed up by subsequent issues where, that's how they acted.
Okay, so he grew up in Harlem. As a teenager, was a classmate of Lonnie Thompson Lincoln, who was later the infamous hitman Tombstone. As working as a reporter in Philadelphia, Robbie encountered Tombstone, who this time had just murdered one of Robbie's contacts. Tombstone threatened Robertson, and the journalist fled to New York and began working for the Bugle. He told no one of the murder he witnessed.
But he's from Harlem, but he fled to New York?
He went to work in Philadelphia for a while, and now he fled to New York. And then 20 years later, when Tombstone began his career doing jobs for the Kingpin... Okay, obviously Wikipedia can be written any damn way they want to write it, but the way that Wikipedia is written, he went to work for the Bugle 20 years ago.
Well, no, it says he moved to New York and then worked for the Bugle. That could just mean that's something that happened after you went to New York. That's Oh yeah, after that, I don't know, because, I never heard from her because I, moved to this part of the state and I married this girl.
And then
It doesn't mean that these are subsequent, events.
well, okay, it says he fled to New York to work for the Bugle, and 20 years later, he saw Tombstone again.
I'm looking at the Marvel.com thing because
Okay.
usually they take that from their official indexes. But let's see. He and Martha moved back to Manhattan, where Joe became a reporter for the Daily Bugle. Over the next it says over the next 20 years, he rose through the ranks to become the Bugle city editor.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that if they're you saying 20 years he became rose to the ring, I'm assuming that they're not pulling that out of their butt and that's actually something that they're taking that from a backstory. So I don't know. I feel like he's new, and I feel like he's new based on dialogue and subsequent issues.
I think in the next issue he's formally introduced to Peter.
Yeah, I feel like
he's definitely new to the position.
And he's new to hanging out with these people because he wasn't in the hospital when Jonah got hit by the the circus spelled sideways as deaf people.
Yeah.
Betty and Peter were there, and there's been a lot of events in the Bugle where logically he would have been aware of these people. I think I don't know.
No, I get you. He just I guess wasn't part of that circle yet, but now he is.
He's always been off panel guiding Ned Leeds through everything.
The guiding hand of fate.
Betty Brant never told you what happened to your father.
I knew I was half black. For goodness sakes, Leeds, use your reporter instincts. I wasn't going to say I was your father, douche. God, daddy issues must. Who is my father? It doesn't matter. You're a Spider-Man supporting character. You don't get a backstory. Even Mary Jane won't get a backstory for 20 years. You're just Ned Leeds.
Even I have a backstory, and I have been here less time than you. Okay, so Betty Brant drama with Ned Leeds. It looks like straight out of a romance comic on that last panel of page 4.
Just the same stuff that they've been doing. They did it in issue 47, no, Ned, don't make this phone call. Whatever happened, I love you. And then she thinks about Peter was dangerous. Now Ned's dangerous. It's
which leads her to cheat, I would imagine.
Yeah. Poor baby. This reporter that she was dating that got sent into war zones is doing dangerous things.
My note on this scene is Brant Tony, because that's
the ultimate shipper.
We talked about how Jameson was being Captain Complainer throughout the story.
Well, he's freaked the heck out. His eyes are big and wide. He's clenching his teeth. He's he's freezing. He's freaking scared, and he's not whining in Spider-Man much as oh, get me out of here. What's going on? They have guns.
The water's up to my chin. In a few minutes, it'll all be over.
Oh, it's boiling acid. My glasses are burning. Batman Forever reference.
You know what's interesting? That I have a note in this issue. Kingpin actually looks kind of small and short compared to the last couple of issues, especially in page 10 and 11. Falswell looks taller than him, and then he does it in the second panel.
You're right.
Yeah.
He's definitely kind of short and squat looking there.
Maybe his cane, which always looks really teeny in the 2 previous books. Oh no, that got destroyed, so it wouldn't look the same size as him. Never mind.
So page 12, we're in the Silver Spoon.
Yeah, Stanley's a douche.
Flash shows up from behind the trash can around the corner.
Hey guys, Vietnam's sure hot, man. All those sand and all those desert. Oh, Flash, you're such a killer. Everyone knows that Vietnam's a jungle. Oh. Well, you don't know the battlefield like I do, Harry. I'm, Have you met any exotic Vietnam girls, Flash? Why, sure. Sean. Yeah, that's a real
Flash,
Vietnam name.
That's the most unrealistic Vietnam name ever. Cut to when Shashan becomes a character. Don't you guys think this is an extremely poor taste for Stanley to I get to come and go whenever I please because I'm a supporting character of Spider-Man and everything's all good. Is the idea that he's actually been in combat, or has he just been trained and is ready to ship off after he's been
The
trained?
letter said that he was heading off soon, so maybe this is his farewell tour chance to get a shag before he goes to have his legs blown off, kind of thing.
No, he's been in Vietnam at this point.
Has he?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
Well, we just got the letter from him a couple issues ago saying he was going to go off soon. So maybe this is like his little like Steven just said. So maybe this is like a vacation before he goes.
But he does say U.S. conquering heroes expect a full turnout when we come waltzing home on furlough.
But also it says that, like, I mean, we remember when that issue came up, like, this takes place very shortly, like within the next issue 52 through 52 take place like within the same day or two.
Maybe the U.S. Postal Service is just a pile of shit. He posted it months ago.
As opposed to the British Postal Service.
We don't have one. Shut up.
Yeah, come on. Who uses the postal service anymore? It's called email and text messaging, douches.
Actually, that's kind of true. The U.S. Postal Service, I read something about them having difficulties and maybe closing down.
That does not surprise me. But, like, I mean, like, really, like this all takes place in such a short amount of time. I can't imagine him actually leaving for Vietnam.
I would guess he hasn't actually made it yet, and that's kind of why he's still... I mean... He's very full of himself and bombastic. And I would believe that Stanley would still write him that way, even if he had gone out and served in combat. But given the context that we're in right now, I would say that the reason he's being so bombastic and full of himself and confident is because he hasn't actually had combat experience yet. He's just been doing the training, and so he's all full of,
We're gonna have to read the next issue, because I think, like, he talks about the army life somewhat in there too, and I mean, they act like he's definitely been overseas. And in issue 47, I feel like they're like, well, off to Vietnam or something like that. So I feel like he's already been gone, especially, and what?
I disagree. I mean, I honestly, like, and this is like, not to say that, like, whenever he comes back in New York, he acts kind of the same way, and like when he's definitively back from like the army. And then, like, the whole Shashan storyline, he acts a little more like, hey, I've actually seen some wartime. But, like, I don't get a sense that, like, he went off, fought, and then came back for, like, no reason. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. If you say that he's gone off and actually had some fighting experience, why the hell would he come back, like, in such a short amount of time after he's already given a letter?
What was it about page 13 that upset you, Don?
No, it's just like the whole scene is like, hi, I'm back. The war is a barrel of laughs. This Vietnam War which destroyed America. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to get political or anything, but like, it's Vietnam. Like, this is like one of the worst like wars in like American history. Like, the fact that like everybody's agreeing and smiling, I find is in honestly horrible taste. And that's why I say that Flash can't possibly have actually left. Otherwise, I think Stanley is really like being stupid writing this scene. Because if there is evidence for him actually having left and like had some combat experience, and now he's back as soon as he left and everything's all fine, there's no way in hell that happened. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I can't rationalize that.
I didn't think about that when I was reading it, but earlier when you said that when you pointed out the dialogue there at the top of page 13, that was insulting. I was kind of thinking about it, and I kind of saw where you were coming from, because I mean, Stan Lee went to war. Stan Lee served in Europe in World War II, and no one enjoys going to war. He should have realized, how terrible things are over there. And to have Flash come back and just laughing about, they can't win without me there. And, the president, he wanted me to help him out, but I told him, go fuck himself. And that's just not what kind of attitude someone would actually have once they were there. Now, just looking online to see when our active protests about the Vietnam War started up, and they were already going at this time.
Sorry, I have to pick you up on something, because I've just had to go and check on it. You said that Stan Lee served in Europe.
Yes, he did.
A lot of
comic writers did. A lot of comic writers and artists did in the Silver Age.
I know he went off to serve in the army. I assume that meant overseas.
No, stateside in the Signal Corps, writing manuals, training films, and slogans. I knew I'd read this, that he was in the army, but his experience before the war in stuff meant that basically he was stateside. He never served abroad.
So okay, that might be Jack Kirby, because Jack Kirby did go into war. Jack Kirby actually, like, I think he received a medal or something. But Stanley, I don't know if Stanley actually saw any combat experience.
I thought I'd read that Sergeant Fury was kind of based on some of the things that he saw.
Yeah, Kirby went to war and was in Normandy after D-Day,
Yeah, he
but
was.
Stan Lee wasn't.
I'm kind of cheating a little bit because I'm looking ahead at the next few issues to see if like what references Flash makes and like people saying, "Oh, Flash is back" or "Oh, this or that." Because he's
I mean, he's in the next issue, like in the same thing. But like, do you see what? Can you guys legitimize if he's been off to war? That he's. Do you think is at all possible that he's gone off to war, or he's fought, and now he's back for like I don't know summer vacation or whatever? Like, do you think that's at all possible? Or has he not-
whether he's off or not, that is insulting. Like it's insulting if he hasn't gone to war, and it's insulting if he has.
I didn't realize until like over the recap. It's like everybody's just grinning and grinning and grinning and grinning and grinning. Let's have the zingiest wing ding in town.
They're always grinning. That's why when you said like, well, look at them, they're smiling when they say that flashing winter dating, but they smile about everything. They're like,
Well, the
would you
abuses,
believe a heart attack?
the abuses that we heard about, that we started protesting about, and there were riots and everything as a result, those are still just a little bit in the future, like 1968, 1969. So
yeah.
the American feeling about the war hasn't gotten to the point where it's going to get.
I do know that. I do know that like the overall the sentiment that people will have on the Vietnam War isn't here yet. But I think that like the idea that like they gone into the, I mean it's I don't think the general idea is like, oh, this is another war that America will fix. Yuck, yuck, yuck. And really like I don't know, it just seems so. There's a couple of issues. There's a few issues down the line where Peter says, "Poor Flash, he's in a war that no one wants to fight," which is I think it's in the John Buscema run, which is like 10 or so issues from here.
You were asking me, Don, when Flash goes back. You see him next issue, and it doesn't look like you see him after. I'm about to check Marvel chronology because I just checked. I'm up to issue 56 now, and I have not seen Flash since issue 53.
I think when Dr. Octopus comes with that like he attacks like nuclear like international diplomats or whatever. I think Flash leaves then, but is that in the next Essential?
Yeah, you're thinking of like because again, Flash comes back a lot. Like
He does.
oh, Flash is back.
After 53, he's gone until 72. That's 2 years. Or a year and a half.
Are you sure it's not sooner than 72?
Yeah, because 72 that's a year before Gwen dies. I mean he's back for good.
Gwen dies in 120. That's still 5 years.
She dies in 1973.
He's talking about issue 72.
Yeah, issue 72.
He definitely goes into combat because at one point Gwen makes a big deal to say that Flash is a man that's been in combat. And you do see flashbacks later on to like Flash being in combat, like, you know, with Shashan's hidden temple in the sky and stuff.
I think that like the next time you see Flash come back from Vietnam, by that time he probably has fought. And he probably has the same attitude. But like to me, it's like he leaves in 47. You get a letter from him in 50. And then in 52, he comes back and go, oh, yeah, the war is great. Like, but if you go by the chronology of Spider-Man quitting, and then the Kingpin sets up his crime wave, it's all on the same like day of the chronology of the characters. Like it's not like months or later.
Oh, I'll do better for you because once we get to the first Brainwasher story, like when the Kingpin fights him, he's like, "Oh my God, it's the Kingpin! I haven't seen him in many, many months." But the chronology of the Brainwasher story, like that follows immediately after the Dr. Octopus amnesia story, which follows immediately after the story that we just covered now. Because like the very first part of it, he's reading like a newspaper article on Fred Foswell, who just died.
Yeah, I have it right in front of me.
So like so maybe like it's a week or 2 weeks since he's seen the Kingpin, and he's like, it's been months. And 2 weeks is like a very, very big estimate.
Yeah, a lot of the next several issues like flow in together like one after the other. There's not a time skip. It's not like from like issue 45 to 46 or something, or 46 to 47.
Whenever he shows up in 72, they're really surprised to see him. It's whenever Peter and Gwen walk into the coffee shop, and he's sitting there. It's like, oh, it's Flash Thompson, and he immediately goes into flirt with Gwen mode, and
Peter's like, bitch, please.
Peter gets really, really upset, and then Gwen gets upset that Peter overreacts. But whenever he doesn't show up again for 6 months in issue 78, and he's just there.
Well, so, I think there are two issues with this. First of all, the continuity is screwed, and the second, this early in the game, and the second, I think that this general idea of I can come and go whenever I please, and we'll have a grand old time. Even if any war, I just find that very, very. I almost can't believe Stanley wrote that.
It's summer camp. It's like you said. It's like, he's sending us to Dear Gwen. We all baked brownies tonight in Vietnam. It was awesome. And we told ghost stories, and I have a crush on the girl from the next camp.
When he was off the page for 18 months, I imagine they probably felt like that was long enough, but it shouldn't really have been long enough. And then when he leaves again after 83, he's not back until 105.
Okay, wait. I'm looking at issue 50 again, where Gwen's reading Flash's letter. It doesn't say that Flash is like getting ready to ship out. He said, like, Peter's just said. The most that's said is Peter says, "Boy, he gives the VCs 24 hours to clear out when he gets there," which is probably the battlefield or the It doesn't say where Flash is.
Is the VC supposed to stand for Viet Cong?
Yeah, the Viet Cong.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So
yeah.
Everyone else is definitely assuming that he's been overseas. That's definitely what's on the page.
Well, he's writing them a letter, so he's. And it's taken that letter some time to get there, obviously, because, it doesn't say that he's back. But yeah, there's nothing in issue 50 that says that, he's getting ready to ship out. The implication is that he's already there. And when he comes back, the implication is that he's already there. So in the absence of evidence that he hasn't been to Vietnam yet, I'm assuming that he's been to Vietnam, and that Stan's just stupid.
I think that by this point, what does this letter say again? She says...
Okay, it says, "Move over, Mr. P. You found yourself a pigeon. Just got a letter from our swinging soldier boy. Fearless Flash, let's see." And then he's reading the letter, and he says he's the same old Howlin' Hotshot. He gives the VCs 24 hours to clear out when he gets there. Okay, to me, that sounds like future tense. He's telling them, I'm giving them 24 hours to clear out once I get there. So he has next...
When he gets there, though, that's when he gets to the battlefield, as if it's something that he's doing on on a basis. When I get to class, I always tell them this.
No, we're gonna start the recording when you get here,
as opposed to we start the recording when you get here, which
it's a discrepancy of the terms. But I think that
it can be taken both ways.
He got basic training. For some reason, he was allowed like a couple of nights in New York, and then he's about to leave. I don't think he's been there yet.
That's the way I'm going to choose to read it, even if it could be read both ways, but I'm going to choose to read it as Flash has not actually seen battle yet. That's why he's still being an asshole about it.
Because he's already done that stuff, reporting to the draft board. He did that way before his party. He did the physical and, the basic training.
Do we know that he went basic training? Because basic training takes a while.
Yeah, no, he was not in basic training in issue 47.
Not in Stan Lee time. Oh, yeah, Flash, you're back. And then Harry says, "Who's minding the war for you, soldier?"
Yeah, they're all definitely teasing him about having gone off to war. But I'm going to say there's enough wiggle room to say that he didn't.
Okay, well, I think he's at least left the country. He's writing letters and...
I disagree because, if he has, it makes Stanley look really bad in my eyes.
Well, everyone's smiling.
Having dated a girl for 2 months while her fiance was off at basic training, you do get letters during that time.
Having not dated a girl who's gone off with somebody who's been basic training, I wouldn't know. There's my perspective. That's useful.
Just saying you can get letters while they're off. So changing scenes to the party.
Yes.
Yeah, the party, yeah. Issue 42. Just off the top of my head, 10 issues ago, I don't know if there's any earlier examples. I might go back and count them later. Issue 42, Gwen's throwing a party. Issue 47, she's throwing a big going-away party for Flash, which is talked about the previous issues. Issue 50, she invites Peter to a party at her house, which he can't go to. Issue 52, Flash is back, and even though she just threw him a party in 47, she's like, "Hey, I have an idea. Let's throw a king-size ring-a-ding party." Oh my gosh. For all those people who say that Gwen, well, everyone knows that Gwen was all about science. Science has not been mentioned once by her, except in the case of doing homework with Peter. This is her fourth party that she's thrown in the span of 10 issues. And that's just what I'm looking at. Maybe this doesn't become a thing. Maybe this is the last reference for a while. But I'm going to start counting Gwen's parties. And just
party.
of all the character traits that people choose for Gwen, because it just annoys me, like, oh, in the Amazing Spider-Man trailer, she has a lab coat. Well, that makes sense, because everyone knows that Gwen Stacy was always about science. And then in, like, the Greg Weisman Spectacular Series, which was good, it's like, well, we logically made Gwen a dork because, everyone knows that, she was a science geek, just like Peter was. It's like, her most defining character trait is something that's mentioned next issue and is never mentioned again. Meanwhile, her character traits in these issues are throwing 4 consecutive parties. And, it just annoys me that that's, like, Gwen's most defining character trait. And it's something that we never see. Meanwhile, she throws a party every 2 issues.
I love when you get upset.
So you're saying you wish they would go back to pre-Flashpoint, Gwen?
What I wish that people wouldn't say, well, this is a logical thing for Gwen to be like in House of M. She was a scientist with Peter, and I remember people saying then, yes, that makes sense. They get it. They did their research because Gwen likes science. We all know that. Like.
It's very numbskull.
It's become this, like, retcon thing about her character. Like, Aunt May selling shoelaces in that one fantasy sequence of Amazing Spider-Man issue 4. What if we decide to make that her defining character trait in all forms of media? That, like, Aunt May's always starting shoelace selling businesses. Or, selling shoelaces online or making shoelaces and telling Peter about the sales trends of shoelaces. Well, it makes sense. They should do that in a new Spider-Man movie because there's just as much of a foundation for that as Gwen being a scientist.
What it is that people are just like people who think they learned one thing that most people don't know in one instance, take that for granted and judge it over the entire thing without doing the research. It's just a sign of people in the industry not doing their research, being very lazy. Long story short.
So speaking of the Kingpin wailing on Spider-Man,
because we're talking about that.
Oh, good, because I kind of got lost with this one a while back.
Yeah, we have more Kingpin versus Spider-Man. Wow, he's so fast. Oh, actually, on page 14, Kingpin gives the whole point. I'm 300 pounds of solid muscle and no fat whatsoever.
Kingpin not having any fat. That's just something he tells himself to make it feel better.
Yeah, look me in the mirror. I don't have any fat on my body. I'm so strong.
Vanessa, I'm not fat, am I? No, of course not, dear. You're fun.
You're not fat. You're big bone. That's what I said.
You're 300. Like she's like so disinterested. You're 300 pounds of muscle. Thank you, Vanessa.
Well,
350 pounds of awesome.
I think this would be a good time if I could find it. Daredevil 170, famous for being the first time the Kingpin turns up in Daredevil. It's about the 3rd issue that Frank Miller is both writing and penciling, although he's been penciling the title for about 10 or 12 issues. So he brings the Kingpin in. And the first thing we see is the Kingpin at his retreat in Japan in a small black loincloth. Control yourself, John. No thinking. And he's being attacked by what looks like anywhere between 4 and a dozen martial arts type people. They're just never all in the same panel at the same time. And the Kingpin basically, in the course of 17 seconds, beats the crap out of them. But because he's in a loincloth, you get to see what he's made of. And whilst there might be a little bit of belly fat, it's pretty much blocky, thick, chunky muscle. Whether that's realistic or not, that's how Miller's taking his cues from the idea that he is 300 pounds of solid muscle.
Right.
He's not just taking how he's going to depict the muscle. Throughout the whole of this issue, Miller's drawing the Kingpin very much as John Romita would be drawing it. So what you're seeing, yes, there's Miller's specific sort of art style in it, but he's toning it right back to give the John Romita one. And at the very end of the issue, he has the Kingpin blow up a building. And then whilst the flames are highlighting his face, there's 3 panels. One where he's looking at the camera. The next way he's almost completely enveloped in shadow as he puts a cigarette into his mouth. And he lights the cigarette on the final panel. And he's always said in interviews that this was how he made the Kingpin his own. It's he would draw it to John Romita, but that lighting of the cigarette was the moment where he went, I'm putting that to one side. This is now my Kingpin.
Yeah, I've seen in a video interview him saying that before, and I think it's really cool, and it's also very respectful of him to take what's come before and then turn him into something new after that acknowledgement.
And flicking forward, there is a big difference in how his facial structure and certainly what he does as a character is very different after this point. And yeah, I just like the fact that it is the respect and it's the influence of how Mr. Romita, or Ring-a-Ding Romita, just to keep that one alive, the strength of what he's done and the influence of it across the years.
Well, Miller said that he considered that the talk around the bullpen was Kingpin was like a joke villain for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about him as a villain? Think he's an effective villain? Do you like his outing as a new villain in Spider-Man now? Around issue 52?
He's a fat gangster, which doesn't really make much of a difference
It's Fat
between all
Joe.
the thin gangsters we've had so far.
At Tony.
I wouldn't call him a joke villain, but I also wouldn't call him like a big arch nemesis or anything. I mean, I think he's pretty effective as a baddie, but I don't think he is to Spider-Man what he would later become to Daredevil, like by any stretch.
Oh no, not
Yeah.
he can't be. He can't be.
Daredevil changed his character forever. Like even his motivation and the way he's drawn, like the version that you saw in the Spider-Man animated series, that was the Daredevil version, the Frank Miller version.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just looking to see when all he shows up in Spider-Man's career before he goes over to Daredevil. We have this story, Brainwasher, Time Tablet, and Schemer. Those are all between issues 50 and 100.
No, there's also an appearance with like he doesn't he kidnap Spider-Man and then like kick him out of a car or whatever. That's in the Len Wein run, I think.
His last appearance before Daredevil is
And he has a Marv Wolfman run appearance.
in the Marv Wolfman run, because that sets up his Daredevil appearance. Like when he retires from crime for good, like after midnight, he's not allowed to commit any crimes or his wife will divorce him. So
Right.
the last thing he's going to do is murder the fuck out of Spider-Man. And like, and it's 11:59, and he's like, "All right, I'm going to kill you." Then it like the clock strikes, and then she's like, "Okay, I'm ready to go to Japan with you." And he's like, "No, can I just kill Spider-Man, please?" She's like, "Sure, if you want a divorce." And he's like, I choose you."
Awesome. It's also worth saying that like in Daredevil, he's written like a realistic. Like in Born Again, if a character like the Kingpin were to exist, that's how he was being portrayed. Whereas here, I think he's a very fat Blofeld with the trick gas canes and stuff like that. And yeah, he has a strength gimmick, but again, that's sort of like a James Bond idea that someone who you don't think would be imposing is imposing.
And really, in the whole stretch of 100 to the Marv Wolfman run, there's only one other Kingpin story in 163, 164. So once he's been used a few times in these next 50 issues, he's pretty much off the table until Marv Wolfman says, "Oh, you're permanently off the table," and then Frank Miller picks him up later.
He's in issue 150, but he's a robot, and he's in issue one. He's in issue 140 something, but he's just an illusion.
And probably 102, whenever Spider-Man remembers his whole life, he's probably there too, but he's not really there.
Yeah, and in 140 something, like Peter's in his apartment and like he's on the phone and like he thinks he sees the Kingpin about to like take MJ from behind, so he like hurls the phone at her. But it was just an illusion. It was the beginning of the Clone Saga.
Oh,
So we'll see a lot of Kingpin over the next couple years of the show, and then he's going to probably go away for most of the time after that. The next time we see him is in issue 59, and if all goes well, we already have a guest slotted for that episode. So we'll reveal that as we get closer to it. But yeah, do we have any other thoughts on the story?
Rest in peace, Frederick Roswell. You will never be mentioned again, more or less.
Basically, yeah, of all the people whose deaths Spider-Man has at least been related to, Roswell never gets mentioned.
He does, like, he's been once in a while, but it's like really, really rare, and it's when someone's like trying to like scrape the bottom of the barrel. He was in that Dan Slott issue from a year ago where like every like dead person shows up.
Because there's also every single person that has died in a Spider-Man comic book is Spider-Man's fault. But he's also
a page where he's walking, like, doing zigzags across the page, and there's loads and loads of dead people, including, thanks to my experience on this show, Sally Averill.
Yep, Sally Averil's there. My God, for the umpteenth time! Yeah, she's there. I think he was mentioned in Marvel Knights, because, like,
Yes.
they made a point in Marvel Knights of, like, including some obscure dead characters, and...
Him and Ben Riley were the ones that made me go, what the huh? When I first read that.
There's another issue where like I was really surprised that he was mentioned. It was in the 90s or so.
Those are the only two ones I ever remember since here.
Oh no, he has a daughter. Who
Roswell does have a daughter who will be the second big man. That's right.
Oh, JR said to mention that, which I never knew about.
It's a Spectacular Spider-Man issue. I don't know where in the run, but it's
not
like,
spectacular. It's Marvel Team Up.
And we're just saying
You're
it now.
so right. It is Marvel Team Up.
As of this recording in October 1st, 2011, Frederick Croswell hasn't been brought back to life. But now that you're listening to this, people in the future, if he has been brought back to life, give us some tissues from the future so we can cry about it.
So
I don't think he needs to come back. I mean, he's not a bad character, but he served his purpose.
yeah, he did.
His place gets taken by Ned Leeds in more ways than one because, like, obviously Ned takes the place.
Oh yeah, we found out a lot of coincidences with those characters last night.
Well, some of those were contrived, but like basically, whenever you needed a reporter or like someone to go undercover in a Spider-Man story, it was Foswell. And then, like, basically from now until Ben Urich's introduction, anytime you ever need a reporter in a Spider-Man story, it's going to become Ned Leeds
Or Lance Bannon. No, Lance is the other paper.
Lance is a photographer, and Lance doesn't become a regular until the 200s. Like,
but it's before Ben Urich is introduced.
At that point ish, Ben Urich was around by the time.
Not in the Spider-Man books. Maybe in Daredevil, but not in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But because Ben Urich predates Miller. Like, that's another thing too.
Yeah. 153. And Miller came on board in the, I want to say, 160s. I could be sure if I could. Oh, there we are. Miller's first issue as a penciler. I'm glad I picked these up. Is 158, and the first as a writer is 168.
Yeah, there was a lot of love shenanigans going on in that first Miller issue because it was like Black Widow, Heather Glenn, and Matt's secretary Becky all fighting over him. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
They took Becky. No, they took Becky out of the running like really quickly. Like it was just so ridiculous. Like the previous issue, because it was a two-parter. Like Heather Glenn shows up, like, "Come on, Matt, or you're late for our date." And then like Black Widow shows up, like, "No, you're supposed to take me to the ballet." And then Heather's like, "You must be mistaken. He's supposed to be going out with me tonight." And then his new handicapped secretary Becky's like, "How can I ever compete with both of those two awesome girls?" And it's like, okay, two girls is enough. He doesn't need three girls fighting over him. So they wrote Becky's crush out, like, without any word, thankfully. But, yeah, Ned Leeds becomes the reporter that's used in Foswell's place. Yeah, me and Dom were joking because, like, both of them die in the place of someone else. Foswell took a bullet for Jameson, and Leeds took a choke to the neck for Kingsley, unknowingly. We had both
had like costume identities.
Yeah, both of them had costume identities. Both of them wound up working with the Fisk, which became their undoing. Both of them got screwed over entirely by their wives, and left like chumps. Oh no, that was just Ned. Never mind.
Well, looking at the ads in this book, we do have another big full-page ad for Not Brand Deck #2 because Stan Lee is really, really proud of this book because evidently no one has ever done a parody before of comic book superheroes. I think one of the main reasons he might have been proud of it is because it kind of has the look of an underground book. Just the art is not exactly, trying to be realistic at all. It's all kind of being, sort of cartoony. And anyway, the issue 2 features Spidey-Man versus Gnatman and Rotten. And I didn't realize this was a Spidey-Man appearance in Not Brand Deck until just getting ready for this show, so we're not talking about it. We might or might not next time.
I don't know how much there'd be to talk about. It's not a canonical appearance.
No, it's not, but it might be fun to laugh at some of the jokes. I don't know. We'll look at it. If we can look at it, if we want to talk about it, we can. If not, then no. We then have another repeat of the Baseball Fans Are Crazy Stratomatic baseball game ad that we used to see on a regular basis. And now you can be taller instantly by wearing platform shoes. Lifty height increase pads. You'll be taller by at least 2 full inches for $2.
Oh, 2 inches. Wow.
Yeah.
That's,
she'll definitely appreciate that. Or he will.
Yes, she will.
Whoa.
Then there is I believe a first instance of an ad that will continue to run all the way into the 80s and 90s, because I saw these when I was collecting comics as a kid. The famous name prizes or cash from Olympic. Where it has all the prizes on there on a big yellow background. I remember the Olympic logo and seeing these things all the time as a kid. I never did want to...
You didn't want to win a gun?
Well, I always wanted to go for the label maker or the chemistry lab.
Ooh, you wanted to label everything.
But it was
That's just one step up from going around and pissing on it. That's mine. Shh, that's mine. Shh, that's mine.
basically, yeah. It's a sales thing. You sell stuff, you get prizes. It's the same kind of fundraisers you did in school, but, for yourself. A couple more hodgepodge ads I'm not going to really look at because they're just boring.
There's one that says, "We sell comic collectors," because it's poorly laid out.
Nice.
I'll buy a John Wilson.
I need to return my John Wilson. This one's faulty. He keeps seeing references and obsessively running to Wikipedia to look them up.
I would buy it.
30 years.
I would buy a John Wilson just to strategically break it. Like, okay, here's issue 4 of Blue Beetle. No, but I didn't read issue 3. Read it in front of me and cry. I didn't read issue 3. No.
Okay, so now moving beyond the John Wilson abuse.
No. This is the whole special episode.
We have X-ray glasses that aren't really X-rays; they're just an optical illusion. We have the same karate doll, and our bullpen bulletins page has awe-inspiring announcements for you to yawn with. Evidently, their alliterative writer has taken the day off today. And there's an item announcing the first 2 king-size specials of the year have now gone on sale. We had one last month that they were coming. Now they're here. Sergeant Fury and Millie the Model. We still have Spidey a couple months out. We also have a complaint from PFC Bruce Long that too much merchandising is hurting Marvel's reputation. To which I say, silly Bruce, tricks are for kids because I like my comic book toys.
I agree with Liz and John.
And Tony.
And he ain't seen nothing yet.
The Spider's Web has lots of letters about issue 49.
Hold on. I'm going to take you back to the bullpen bulletins. Have you seen the strip at the bottom? Let's meet 26 more MMMS members.
Okay. I didn't look at it.
Hold on. I'm just going to check if I've got the right counting.
I see your lie.
Name number 15, John.
Okay, that's 6, 10,
I see it.
14, 15. Terry Larson.
It's Eric Larson's father. Yes.
Except that it's not, you freak show.
Fuck you, it is.
The search for Eric Larson's father on the next episode of Amazing
We
Spider-Man.
should have asked him at San Diego Comic-Con when me and Josh and John saw Eric Larson. Or no,
Yeah,
Josh and John.
Yeah. I should have walked up to Eric Larson and said, "Who's your daddy?"
With the plate of butter in your hand.
Excuse me? Who's your daddy? All right, meet me at my hotel room in 20 minutes. Whoa.
No, I meant it literally. The letters.
So did I. My father's in the hotel room. I was going to introduce you guys. Oh, in that case, that's not dirty at all. Right, so you can have sex with him. And we're back at dirty.
If he just turned around and said, "Oh, my dad, brilliant guy named Terry, he was a member of the Mary Marvel Marching Society, he had a letter printed in the early issues of Spider-Man," you guys would have shat yourselves on the spot.
Sort of you made that up.
I would have fainted.
I would have needed someone to have videotaped that.
So Chris Jessup wrote a letter on the Spider's Web. It says, "Dear Stan and John, I have a question which has puzzled me for a long time. Spidey's web shooter is worn at his wrist and is activated when he touches the electrode in the palm of his hand. Then why isn't his web activated when he makes a fist? From pictures I've seen of his device, I don't see how it could not be activated when he does make a fist. Please explain." And from the response writer we've thought about it for months, Chris. Spent countless sleepless nights tossing and turning, yawning and yearning, and then it came to us. We found the answer. It was earth-shaking in its sheer simplicity, soul-shattering in its cold, clear logic.
Oh, God.
In order to activate his little webby shooter, Spidey does indeed touch the electrode in the palm of his hand, but he has to touch it twice. When he makes a fist, he only touches it once. Just address your no prize to Stan and John, pussycat.
So I heard that explanation before, but that's interesting that it's addressed in the letters page.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever read it on page before. I mean, I might have done and just not remember it now. But Seems like it's just one of those things that fans know that I've never actually seen used in a story. But here's the origin in any case. Do y'all know, has it been on the page in stories before?
In like source stuff,
That's
where
what I
like
know.
Peter's like explaining to Mary Jane, "Hey Peter, how do your powers work anyway?" Well, it's funny you asked, Mary Jane. Well, let's explain it in the back of this amazing Spider-Man annual.
Every 30th anniversary special, there was some story like that. But I've seen it either like he touched it twice, or that it takes super strength for him to use it, which only he can use. Which
And see,
still
when
doesn't
they-
make any sense.
When they first did the diagram of his web shooter, it looked like he was reaching down like to the bottom of the palm of his hand, farther than you would normally go if you needed to make a fist. You know,
But then if you're making a fist, you're going to hit someone, and that's going to compress your hand into it anyway.
not the way I hit people. It's not.
Okay, but if you're going to hit them properly,
Says the pacifist. So, yes, that was issue 52, the end of the first Kingpin story. Next ish. Now, look, we spent a lot of time making a modern-day masterpiece of the yarn which follows. We worked and slaved over it, fought with each other, argued, yelled, ranted, and raved. We did all we could to make it the most exciting, most suspenseful, most surprise-packed spectacular of the year. We brought back the most deadly, dangerous, and supremely powerful supervillain we could find, and we prepared a bombshell development at the conclusion which ought to boot you through your bird cage. So we're just too tired to give you the hard sell now. Instead, we'll merely confess that Spidey number 53, featuring the long-awaited return of Dr. Octopus, is as great as a Spider-Man yarn can be. And breathes there a true believer anywhere who doesn't know what that means? Enough said? Okay then, meet you next ish and be ready for anything.
I'm breathless.
Yeah, he
can't
really
wait.
knows how to write a next issue box, doesn't he?
He does, for real.
and there's some nice new ads on the back as well.
Yeah, there's an ad for Revolutionary Soldiers that look exactly the same as the Civil War soldiers before. And
What? Are you suggesting they're just reselling the same product under a different name?
yes, I am exactly suggesting that.
You bastard.
And more fishing rods, and also on the back cover, boys, girls, men, women. If you need extra money and know just 10 people, you can make all this money in your spare time by selling holiday cards.
Wow. Which holiday cards?
They look like Christmas cards.
When was this issue released?
In May. June.
Yay!
June.
Forward planning.
Yay. Okay. Released on the same day as Amazing Spider-Man 52, but with a cover date a month earlier, because that's how they roll, was the X-Men 35. The cover, brought to us by Dan Adkins, has all the X-Men looking rather combative as Spider-Man leaps toward them from above.
With an awesome pose by Cyclops. I love that.
It looks like he's falling over backwards.
He's doing the Matrix. Come on.
It's very, very Kirby-esque.
It is very, and Spider-Man's ass is to the camera, which is awesome.
Ass shot.
But the team in these classic books consisted of the Angel, the Iceman, Marvel Girl, Cyclops, and the Beast. And they're all wearing yellow and blue costumes with red belts. The only caption is, a title bar across the bottom, along came a spider.
Why do they have those code names?
The X-Men?
Yeah.
Because
Their
they're
real names
superheroes,
suck.
and it's the rules.
Well, what do you mean? Like, well, why don't they just call each other by their real names?
If you see the 1990s 1992 X-Men cartoon, you will see why they have their code names when they say Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey, because they show their powers and why they have those code names with their names across.
Why don't they just call each other by their regular names, though?
This is a comic book, Josh.
Yeah, but so, like, what's the worst? But why?
They have secret identities.
War against humans.
Secret identities. So then why in this issue when they're fighting Spider-Man do they yell each other's real names throughout the battle?
I never noticed that.
Oh,
Three
and by
or-
the way,
I
just
counted
this one.
3 or 4 times. At the end, the only person whose secret identity they give a fuck about is Jean's, because at the end they're like, Marvel Girl. Oh yeah, correct that one. Not Hank, Bobby, Scott. Watch out.
This is true. This is
He
absolutely
doesn't say
true.
their last names though.
I cannot deny.
I just have to quickly point out, you said the cover was very Kirby-esque. There's a very good reason for that.
It was John
It's a
Kirby.
Kirby cover.
I have Dan Atkins on the credit. Is the Kirby cover?
Well, Comic Book DB reckons Jack Kirby and Dan Atkins.
It says inked by Dan. It could be inked by Dan Atkins.
Yeah, that's a Kirby pencil cover.
Okay. I was looking at Mike's Amazing World, which did not have that. But that doesn't mean that Mike's Amazing World is correct.
Mike's Amazing World!
Mike's Not So Amazing World. Mwahaha.
Well, also, he's been doing the Marvel stuff for a fraction of the time that Comics Grand Database has been doing it. Open the book, we see the Banshee flying among the mountains of Central Europe. And this is before the Banshee became like a stud muffin. This is like when he used to look really old and elfin and kind of ugly.
And wore a random green box on his head.
Yes, and wore a random green box on his head. He is on the lookout for the sinister group known as Factor 3. This is a mysterious group that the X-Men first heard about in issue 28 and have been hunting down ever since. That was like a really long plot that's sort of nearing the end of its conclusion that's going to wrap up in 39. But we're still on the trail in this story because Factor 3 has recently captured Professor X. Oh, no!
No.
Is this when he fakes his death just to be a douche?
No, that's like 30 issues later. But yeah, that happens. Or 20.
I was just testing you, X-Men. You passed. We grieved your death.
And now that I'm alive, let's cancel the book.
Professor Xavier is a jerk.
So as Banshee soars down near a mountainside, thinking that he's nearing the entrance of Factor 3, a door opens and a robotic spider emerges. It fires from an eyepiece on an eye stalk in front of its body, and it wounds Banshee, but not badly, and Banshee makes it back to his cabin to warn the X-Men of the spider protecting the headquarters of Factor 3. But he can only get out the words, "Beware the spider!" before he is abducted himself. Meanwhile, in New York, Peter Parker is out for a joyride on his motorcycle, trying to get himself lost to unwind after his run-in with the Kingpin. And we actually get a mention of that story, so yay, continuity.
For now.
Peter pulls over to enjoy relaxing on the bank of a stream with an old, unused mill building nearby, but he sees a metal ovular ship flying around in the sky. He changes to Spider-Man, since no one can see him out there, and as he does so, the ship lands, and out from it emerges a robot spider that looks just like the one that shot Banshee in Europe. It has one big eyepiece on its stalk, like I said, and with that it fires at Spider-Man as well. And as he starts dodging the blasts, over at the X-Mansion, Cerebro sounds off, announcing the presence of a mutant. The X-Men determine the location to be just minutes away, near the edge of the mansion property, out by the old mill. Leaving Jean Grey behind because she's a girl and can't fend for herself. To be monitoring the calls in case Banshee calls in again. The rest of the X-Men head out, wondering if this has anything to do with the message they got, "Beware the spider." You can see how the contrived plot is contriving.
Contrived? Don't know what you're on about.
Spider-Man, meanwhile, has managed to get behind the spider, and they're inside the mill. He leaps on its back, grabs the eye gun, and doubles it down on itself so that the next blast it releases causes the spider itself to explode.
Boom!
You would think the spider would be smart enough not to shoot at its own belly, but no. The blast does actually manage to knock Spider-Man out briefly because he was kind of hugging the thing as it exploded. And when he comes to and emerges from the mill building, he notices the ovular ship has disappeared, and the X-Men have arrived on the scene. The mutant signal location has led them to Spider-Man. The Beast suggests aloud that Spider-Man might in fact be the spider of whom the Banshee had warned, which puts all the X-Men in hostile mode.
Which makes Angel say, "Hank's right." You know, using his first name. So that's secret identity count number 1.
Henry McCoy.
They demand that Spider-Man tell them where he's hiding the professor, and the Angel moves in to capture him. With that, a classic Silver Age superhero slugfest is in swing. While they're fighting, back at the X-Mansion, Jean Grey notices that the mutant signal from Cerebro has gone blank. But back at the mill, the fighting continues, and both before and now, there is quite a bit of it. But I don't like to do the blow-by-blow account unless it actually relates to the story. So, skipping ahead to where Cyclops calls a timeout when his signal watch goes off.
And everyone's secret identity has been blown.
Z.
Quick, Iceman! Marvel Girl is contacting us.
Yeah, the first time that they give a shit.
He hears from Jean Grey, or Marvel Girl, I mean, that the mutant signal ceased just after they left, which means that Spider-Man couldn't be the mutant they had come to find, and therefore isn't part of the mutant menacing group known as Factor 3. Spider-Man's pretty pissed off about the whole thing, and when he hears them mention a spider menace, he tells them about the robotic spider that had flown in before they did. With barely any apology, the X-Men get in their car and drive off again, leaving Spider-Man soaked from landing in the stream and basically mad at the whole lot of them.
As he deserves.
There's one more story that deals with them following another lead to Factor 3, but I'm going to leave that off since it doesn't really concern us. And this was not nearly as cool of an issue as I remembered it being.
You remember it being cool? Ever?
I did. This is Spider-Man's guest appearance on the X-Men. I thought it was going to be awesome. And for some reason, my memory said it was, and my memory lied.
The only thing that I thought was noticeable was typical Marvel romance where he says, where Marvel Girl is like, "I'll never forget, my darling, how you wanted to shield me, protect me from harm, and I'll always love you for it, no matter what." Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, they drug the Scott Jean thing out in those early issues, like
They do all the time.
Oh, right, because they've never done it since.
They're
yeah,
together.
but I mean, like even more so than like some of the other stuff, like Thor and Jane Foster, like that's over by now. That's been drugged out. I don't know what's going on with Pepper and Tony at this point.
I'm pretty sure that they're together at this point. I think there's a retcon that puts their confession of love during the story of issue 30, but I could be wrong about that.
She loves Professor X the mostest.
She does love Professor X because he's older and wiser and more manly.
And baller.
And because everything works below the waist.
You might have liked this more because, like, maybe compared to the other issues that surrounded this, you just had the euphoria of Spider-Man showing up.
Yeah, this was not a good time for the X-Men.
That's why it was canceled.
Well, okay,
Really?
so Stan Lee... Okay, Jack Kirby leaves with, like, issue 14. Stan Lee sticks around almost issue 20, and then he leaves. Roy Thomas takes over, and this is Roy Thomas's first comics writing gig, as far as I know. It was definitely his first for Marvel. And it's just not that good. And the art fluctuates. There's a lot of swapping out of artists. The art here was not that great. So by the time you get to issue 50, and you have Neil Adams drawing, and I forget who was writing it, but it was somebody doing a much better job.
I think it was Roy Thomas.
It might have been Roy Thomas again. In the case, he was getting better. The stories were much better by issue 50, but by that time, the comic had already lost a lot of readers.
It's Thomas until it's pretty much until it's reprints, a small amount of fill-ins for 10 or so issues.
Yeah. So issue 20 to issue 50, that's 30 issues. That's 2.5 years, where it just really was kind of middling. And it's not until you finally introduce Polaris that the book starts getting good again.
I read the first Essential of X-Men, and I thought it was awesome, so I started flipping through the second Essential before buying it, and I couldn't.
Yeah. I think it's pretty much if anyone's looking to, I would like to read X-Men from the beginning, you go, this is, however, you're reading in, hold on, where am I? You're reading like base 94. Start at 94.
No. There's a lot of good stuff in the first 66 issues, just not during this part of it. I mean, they fight Frankenstein, they fight Blastar for no reason, they fight Count Nefaria.
I think he switched those villains. They fight Blastar, then they fight Frankenstein for no reason.
For no reason was to go at the end of both of those.
They graduate in, like, issue 8.
Yeah, and Bobby, the Iceman, graduates at the same time as everybody else. Even though the issue previous, they had celebrated that the school was open for a year. So after a year, all the students are now ready to graduate, including the one who just got pubes.
I thought Bobby was
Professor X. Professor X has been telepathically mind raping him and depositing all the knowledge he needs.
Probably.
I wouldn't say that's raping.
I was wondering what Don thought of this quote, where Peter's on his motorcycle. It's almost like fate was pulling me here for some mysterious reason I can't even imagine, as Peter's going off of his motorcycle.
Oh, that was awful. It's
Shook my head until my neck broke.
You couldn't even come up with a decent reason for him, like, not even, my map's really wrong. I must have taken the wrong turning somewhere. Just, hey, I feel like driving this way, and I don't know why.
It must be fate! Or, this is when you do it's called a plot line.
Oh yeah, let me get to it. It's funny how I just hopped on my cycle and ended up here in Westchester County.
It would have
It's
been
almost like
funnier.
fate was putting me here for some mysterious reason I can't even imagine. There's no sense even trying.
No,
It could have been better if it had just been, I had this mysterious letter from Mr. R. Thomas telling me to drive out here, but it didn't explain why, and I don't Oh, the X-Men!
He shouldn't even be on his motorcycle. He just be like floating there, not saying anything, and then when he lands, he starts saying, "Oh, I'm lost."
The one of the few good things I could say about this issue is that there were some nice references to Spider-Man stories during the course of the writing. He mentions the Kingpin. Later on, he mentions the Hulk and the Rhino. When Spider-Man becomes a really popular guest appearing person, it's almost like he's just out of nowhere, completely segregated from the rest of his life. But, you do get a sense of this being the Spider-Man that we do read in Amazing Spider-Man. And he's not overly a jerk either. He only gets really, really mad at them whenever they've been beating him up for 10 pages.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, hi, it's the X-Men. It's those nutty X-Men." And Hank McCoy's like, "Get him!"
Because they had invited him to join the team a few issues earlier, X-Men 27, and he had just been invited by the Avengers, and he was done with teams. So whenever he saw them again, he thought it was going to be like, "Oh, hey, friends." Not so much.
I don't know if Marvel readers are getting tired of it at this point, or if it's like still a new exciting thing. But like, even with like this point in the '60s, I'm sick of the whole like superheroes are in a misunderstanding and think that the other one's evil and fight. Like it's like the whole like beware of the spy. Like it's just like, oh my god, we're doing this again. This is so contrived. Like, did people think that this was cool back then? Like loving to see their superheroes fight each other. Like, was this really a cool thing?
I don't know. I mean, it's either that or they team up to fight somebody else because you have to have a fight.
Well, I don't know. It's so hard to think of this as something fresh and original. Sort of when you pick up any comic book nowadays, like, get stuff from someone else, right? When are they going to fight? And it's just become such a cliche.
Daredevil number 2, him and Captain America for exactly no reason.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
the first, if you were in your teens in 1960, whenever, and you just started buying, use this as an example, Daredevil, it's like, I like this Captain America that I've seen in the Avengers, always meeting Daredevil. I wonder how they get on face to face. It's like JLA Avengers, Captain America and Daredevil, and Batman. You wanted to see them go toe to toe. And then they did the best thing, which was they go, you know what? This is going to take a while. Let's just get on with finding out what's going on.
Yes, which is like one of the best indie company crossovers there's ever been.
Yeah, because they actually care rather than go, I've got reason to bring them together, 3 issues of fighting, then we'll fight together against someone and that will be it. No, they came up with much more interesting ways of running those.
The question of whether Spider-Man is a mutant seems to be something that like continues to be brought up from time to time, but it was settled pretty conclusively here, I thought. Cerebro has never reacted to Spider-Man, and specifically does not react to him in this story. So I know they address. Maybe I'm just feeling about Ultimates because they do address the issue in Ultimates several times. Maybe they don't really do it in the 616 books very much, but.
Oh, at one point, like the headline on his book was like the non-mutant superhero, like on every issue for real.
Oh. Okay.
Spider-Man?
Yeah, like the Marvel's non-mutant superhero. In the 90s, around when the X-Men were big, that was the thing.
Oh, yeah.
When there were 25 mutant books and Spider-Man was the only non-mutant book.
Right.
Even Thor.
Just on a side note, I saw my old Wizard magazines, like in the download that I have for issue 1, there's an ad for X-Men #1 on the back, and it's so funny. It's talking about like last year, I made Spider-Man #1 by Todd McFarlane broke every single record in comic book sales. We were just getting started, and then like, and then it's X-Men #1. They do not see the market crash coming. There is articles in this Wizard magazine about how comic sales are awesome, collector's items. It even says like collector's item on the cover, and like, and how like the direct market is the best thing that ever happened.
Cut the calm before the storm.
It's so sad. They're like, you can just like imagine Marvel like drinking champagne out of their copies of X-Men #1.
Nice. So, publication-wise, this is the last meeting between Spider-Man and any of the X-Men until a couple of Marvel team-up issues that came out after the X-Men was canceled as a title. It was brought back as a reprint book, but it was out. It was basically done for a while. But chronology-wise, they did have another meeting in Spider-Man X-Men 4-issue miniseries that came out around 2008, 2009. The first issue of that falls just a bit earlier than those team-up issues, like immediately after the cancellation.
It's another flashback story with like at the coffee bean with Gwen and Mary Jane and Kraven the Hunter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They keep on going to that well of Kraven the Hunter and the coffee bean every single freaking time.
During a time when Kraven the Hunter was not appearing in Spider-Man.
That's like something driving me nuts. That like, oh, it was always Spider-Man fighting Kraven the Hunter. Like that more than anything is starting to bug me.
in the coffee bean while Gwen was doing science, and he had to choose between her and MJ. And Flash shows up in his army uniform, acting like a douche because he's always on leave.
Which is true in the actual issues.
Yeah.
The letters column in this book doesn't matter because it's about other X-Men issues, but I did look a few issues down the road to see if anything was said about Spider-Man. There wasn't really anything except that Rich Ulver asked why the writers are always picking on him, and then Gerald Newsom says that Spider-Man has never looked better art-wise, which is an interesting opinion.
Yeah, art was not great on Spider-Man here.
Especially the Peter Parker. I couldn't stand the Peter Parker.
It looked like a bad mix between Ditko and Kirby, which the guy did not get right.
It all just seems stiff and without any emotion. I'd say just, I don't know if it was caught on the record, but Iceman, for instance, seems to have been modelled off of Crichton from about Red Dwarf 4. None of you guys have seen Red
some
Dwarf.
of the Spider-Man action in it. I've seen like an episode of Red Dwarf. I haven't seen Crichton yet, though.
The guy, he's a robot whose head is various. He's referred to as a razor head, a novelty-shaped condom. It's basically very angular in a very chunky and awkward kind of way.
And Jean Grey looks mannish, and Cyclops' eyepiece.
Maybe that's what turns Scott's on.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
I like the new X-Men optic visor rather than this plain looking old one, because that one's like cool looking.
Yeah. So that basically wraps up that issue and wraps up
just
this
to point
episode.
out,
Oh yeah.
sorry, just very quickly, there's a poem in the letters columns for this issue, penned by Mark Evanier.
Evanier.
Oh.
Evanier.
Yeah.
What?
He's Eric Larson's father.
Well, I just thought I'd tie the episode up like that.
If he sticks to his French roots, it's Evanier. If he doesn't, it's Evanier.
I know I know they pronounce it Evanier. I've heard his name pronounced several times.
Okay, so he's Evanier.
But have you heard it pronounced correctly? Aha.
Well, have you heard?
Well, your name
No.
is Stefan if you want to pronounce it correctly. So,
And yours is Jan.
well, yes, it is, but it's not Johan.
I didn't say it was.
I know. I'm just saying some people do. So don't. The Greek name Ioannis that has John with an H derived from it is not my name. My name has a different etymological root. But anyways, that's a wholly different story.
Giannis, so go.
We want to say thank you very much to Stephen Lacey for being on here for these 3 episodes of awesomeness.
Hello. Goodbye, even.
I was listening to that last night. You say goodbye.
You
I
say
hello.
goodbye. I say hello. Okay, so Stephen, go ahead and give them one more rundown about where all you are on the internets.
I can be found in several places online. My podcast, 20 Minute Longbox, the briefest and most random of comic book podcasts, can be found at 20minutelongbox.libsyn.com. That's 20minutelongbox.libsyn.com. And the name is accurate. I think I've got one episode that's a few seconds over the 20-minute mark. It doesn't take much time to listen to, so drop by and give it a go. My Superman blog, which is updated quite literally once in a blue moon, is at worldofsuperman.blogspot.com. Although I've actually got a couple of posts ready to go, which it scared me when I wrote them because I hadn't done it in a while. And you can also find me on Twitter, where I am at QuizLacey, QUIZLACEY. Drop by and say hi.
And his podcasting information might be out of date, but Stephen is still very active on that Twitter feed, and you can find him every other week currently at The Fantasticast with Andy Leyland at thefantasticast.com, walking through the Silver and now Bronze Age adventures of the members of the Fantastic Four. Well, this has been quite an adventure. Finding these lost episodes, reviving them, putting them out there for your perusal, coupled with the announcement that these are the last of their kind. The show is coming back. The show is back. but new episodes will involve a new group of voices. One of those voices will be Stephen Lacey's friend on the Fantastic Cast and co-host and partner, Andy Leyland, as big a Spider fan as has ever been found, I'm sure. He is often heard over at the Fantastic Cast and Hey Kids Comics and the Palace of Glittering Delights, talking about all sorts of amazing things. Also with me will be a name that is hardly new to most of you. That is Michael Bailey of Superman podcasting fame and other various topics, from Crisis to Crisis, the Superman podcast, Radio KAL Live, and various productions over at the Two True Freaks Network, including various times on Back to the Bins and Tales of the Justice Society of America. He and I have worked together on various individual projects before. This is our first ongoing endeavor together, and the trio, I believe you will have a good time enjoying us look at some Spidey comics. We've already recorded several episodes, and they are going to continue coming out to you every other week on Friday, as often as I can make it happen. Okay, next episode, before we launch into new reviews with the new crew, I want to take the time to thank and recognize and respond to everyone who has written the show an email over the last intervening gap of time. I have no clue how long this episode is going to be. There are quite a few emails in the inbox. Okay, I feel like I owe you some sort of explanation. Before I sign off here, if you're out of the loop and you don't participate in those in various circles, the bare bones facts are that this show ended 5 years ago because of a personal fallout between me and the other members of the cast. It is nothing that is of any sort of public interest. It is nothing that is for public consumption. It is also water that is rather far under the bridge at this point. And while we have gone a long way to moving past those differences, the show will be continuing with a new group of panelists. So that is where we have been for the last 5 years. And I want to thank Josh and Dawn right here on the show for making this show become a reality. I have spent the last 5 years saying that my favoriteest thing I've ever done in podcasting was Amazing Spider-Man Classics. I enjoy listening to this show as much as I enjoy producing it, and maybe even more, and it's because of them and what they brought to the show that is the case. I do not believe that the show will be worse without them. It will be different without them. It will not be the same at all without them. And I do want to thank them profusely from my heart for their contributions to the show and for their friendship at various times. Those guys really, really mean a lot to me. And I wouldn't be the podcaster I am without them. That being said, onward and forward, new horizons, new vistas. And so for the last time, my name is John Wilson.
I'm Donovan Grant.
I'm neither of those people.
And thank you very much for listening to Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Good night.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big bang. Wherever there's a hang, you'll find the Spider-Man.